Hey, so I just finished watching The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, I guess is the full title, the Amazon series. So let's talk about it. Um, I am not a Tolkien expert. Maybe I'm not even a Tolkien fan. I would say I'm a Peter Jackson movie Lord of the Rings fans. Yeah, I know it's not nice to start talking about the other movies when we're supposed to talk about the series. They are kind of like the elephant in the room, and I just want to, introduce myself in this context and give where I'm coming from. So I watched those movies quite a bit, the Peter Jackson movies. I watched the Hobbit, like the Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, Return of the Kings, the Hobbit movies, Desolation of Smaug, and Two Armies. I think I watched exactly once in cinema. Haven't felt the need or let's say desire. I don't want to see them again, as in I found better things to do. I have read the books. I know the Lord of the Rings books. I've read them once, but I'm pretty sure I've read The Hobbit twice. And then I played some games, mostly the cool action games. Do you remember those with like graphics on PlayStation 2? I think there were three of them where the graphics or they would show clip of the movie and then it would for the time being would morph seamlessly into the game, and it was like, whoa, what is this? I played those a lot, especially because they had a level up system. Um, but I'm getting a bit digressed. Let me just finish with the three movies and saying I saw recently. I think it was one of the YouTubers I like to watch called Upper Echelon was concerned that the Rings of Power will take over, but I don't think that's possible. Even if things were better, like the Rings of Power would take over the mental space or the yeah um, what do you call that general placing? Oh, Lord of the Rings, that is the Amazon node. I think for a lot of people, I can reveal myself. I'm 35, but I don't think. I think there's going to be a clear distinction between those two going forward, the Rings of Power and the Peter Jackson's original trilogy, let's call it that. I wouldn't fear for that. Um, it can't replace them. I mean, it's not even the same story. It's just in the same universe. Um, so I wouldn't fear for that. It doesn't. They don't have the same feeling, and they certainly don't have the same quality. But we'll get into that. So that was that point. They can't replace those three movies. Leading up to the release of The Rings of Power, there was like poster of a Black Dwarf, and that's why I kind of wanted to say how little of a Tolkien world expert, Lord of the Rings expert I am. I gathered that that is not um, what you call it, canon. I don't disagree with I usually am the type that will say you should stick to canon. It's there for a reason. If you're not going to follow the canon, why don't you make your own show? And that could be a big sentinel for this whole show, for the Rings of Power thing. Why didn't you just change a few things, and then it wouldn't be the Rings of Power? You would have saved a lot of money, and you would have all the freedom, and you wouldn't have uh, the fans bashing it, because I think the idea was that they would have lots of the Rings fans and from the movies and people going, yes, we want more Lord of the Rings, and now they are seems like they're disappointed. Um, I wouldn't. Short of, let me just cut to it. I've spent 10 hours now watching those 10 episodes of 1 hour each, and that is the time-wise equivalent of watching three Peter Jackson movies, um, extended versions. Those are also 10 hours put together. And like that, there's just no comparison. The movies are superior, better, more entertaining, more engaging in every way. They sound better, they look better, they film better, they acted better, they're more cohesive. That's, I think a lot of people agree with that, but that's how I feel. I can justify it somewhat, going to later. So you have this competition now with this series because you made it in the Lord of the Rings. if you had made up your own fantasy universe, maybe you wouldn't have the initial um, focus or appeal, but you would have saved a lot of money from the Tolkien estate, I suppose, and you wouldn't have had fans. You would just say, hey, it's my own world, my rules. You can have elves and dwarves. Those aren't copyrighted. I see them all the times. So that's my. So let me get back. Sorry, I get a bit distracted. So I can't say if that's a big nerd no. You know, we get the whole rogue, um, black dwarf. I didn't mind her. I thought the role was fine. She's a supporting character for the Dwarven Prince, but she was a bit stereotypical, and that's probably where I rolled my eyes and said, okay, so we have this black woman playing a what I would consider stereotypical black woman role, where she's she's the actual uh, head of the family. She's very supportive of her husband, but in a very strict way. I did like the couple. I think they had some great shows. Of course, I can't remember any names. I barely can remember names in anything. I just thought it was like, okay, this is like, would you call it typecasting? I didn't think it was saying, okay, double up on stereotypicals. So not only did you hire a black actress, talented, I believed her performance, I believed the character, but a bit stereotypical. Definitely wasn't the worst thing, it turned out. So let me get into some of those next. Because stereotypes seem to be all around. And I'm not talking, about, culture in Tolkien universe where you have like elves be tall and lean, but also kind of like, slow and elegant and mystical, where dwarfs were shorter, wider, and their art was more, robust. It's stone, so it was also more angular. The Peter Jackson who just did this perfectly. You can see the sign how the elves, the shield and the swords have like curves and waves. The buildings are like trees woven into nature. But dwarves pretty much big, brute, sturdy, and still beautiful in their own way. Stone houses, stone caves, swords and shields. But I didn't feel it was stereotypical as the way that it is here in Rings of Power. There's a scene where the dwarf is like, they're sitting at a table, and our dwarf friend is, oh, this stone is sacred to us, and you're using it as a table. I should get it back. How deep did you dig? The elves didn't dig. And that was a good question. It was like, okay, as far as I know, I'm on board with that saying elves wouldn't mind to that extent. Of course, they have weapon of metal, but they are, more nature, more growing things. It's not disrupting nature as dwarves, you can say. Is. So, and they never answer that. They say, oh, we dig this deep or something. So they'll just like, oh, okay, we'll make sure to send it to you, dwarf, so the stone can be properly respected. And it turns out to be a joke. And I didn't think that was a good decision. This is just a joke. The dwarf wanted a table and cheated it off the elves. But that was very stereotypical, and I didn't like it. And I think there's a lot of decisions like that in this series. Yeah, so I have a bit of like structure I want to go through. These aren't scripted, in case you can't tell, but I'll try to keep somewhat structure. So God talked about some of the stereotypical. Let me talk a bit about, because the Rings of Power is a prequel. That's for certain. They've been open about that. And then we have the problems with prequels, and I'll talk about this in Obi-Wan, but I'll just talk about it here, how it manifests in Rings of Power. One of the main characters is Galadriel. Let's say, original character. We know her from the movies, so I suppose you can say with absolute certainty anyone who watches Ring of Power will know who Galadriel is from the movies, and they know that she's there, she's alive. So stop putting her in danger, because I'm not buying it. You can't kill her. You won't kill her. You're not able to, because I know she's gonna survive whatever you throw at her. So don't have her hanging off cliffs. Don't put her on a raft. You're just wasting my time. I'm not buying it. She's not gonna die. She's gonna survive. It's one of the only certain things, and she does survive quite a lot of things. There's no tension to it, because you made a prequel and you're following a character that I know is in the sequel or original. I'm not invested. Don't do it, please. It's not good. You can have tensions other ways. You can have a situation being excited because the way that the conflict is resolved or the solution, but putting Galadriel on a raft and being like, oh, she's attacked by a monster, will she survive? I'm gonna go with yes, and then I'm just waiting for you to finish your little show, your little scene, your little Galadriel fights sea monster. Yes. There ain't no tension. Stop doing that, please. And we can continue with that. A big plot here is also that says the elves are connected to the trees, and the trees have some sort of sickness. And the entire elves on Middle Earth, because they come from somewhere else, and it's a bit hard to follow, so I'm not good with these sort of like names and locations and things. But I got that the entire elf race is in danger. Don't put the entire elves of elves in danger. I know they're going to be around. The solution comes up as in the form of the material mithril. It's like, wow, this new material. I know the elves are going to be around. I know there's going to be mithril, and there's going to be plenty of it. Because I've seen an armor made of mithril that Frodo has to survive the Spear of Galadriel. I know the elves are there, and I know they're doing fine, because they didn't talk about it in the movies. When the Fellowship came to them, they were like, oh, we can't help you a lot because we're dying. Our trees are dying. Don't do it. Again, there's no tension. I'm not sitting and being like, so my God, are the elf race going to survive? And it's just such a big thing, because they go to the Dwarven King to get mithril, because they think that can solve the problems. And then he's like, oh, I guess the elves are done for. I'm exaggerating, but that is the result. The Dwarven King dooms an entire race. So I don't like that character. Yes, his son then has a motivation because he does, but it reflects badly on the dwarves and the king, their king, the elected ruler. I guess his kings or his inherit, but they seem to have some sort of system to determine rulership. Doesn't really matter, because it reflects bad on, and he dooms an entire race. Even though he said, oh, it's dangerous, and it's dangerous to mine mithril. Actually, if I'm just sitting here remembering, the show had like one scene. It was actually teased. Well, double up on BS coming up. But so there's one scene where we go in through the mountain. There's a big cave, and you just see ores and lots of mithril you can almost just pick up. And then that scene had a leaf. Yeah, that leaf ended at like the bottom of the valley, and there was a bulwark. So I was teased a bulwark, and that never came. Don't do that either. Don't do that. I'm guessing it was just a bulwark cameo. Oh, hello, I'm the bulwark. Remember me? I look the same. I'm here. Maybe I'll be useful later. And I don't know what later is, because I had, and yeah, you can say that's a me issue, but I know the Lord of the Rings movies. So things and places I'm trying to put in relations, and I have a hard time placing this on the timeline. And that might be intentional, but it's weird. I don't think you should do it. Like just quickly skipping to the House of the Dragon. They start very promptly with text on screen. It's like the cinematic way of saying, I give up, you need to know this, and I can find no clever way to tell you, and I need to be sure you know this. House of the Dragon starts with, this takes place 176, if I remember correct, 176 before Game of Thrones. There you go. Rings of Power does do anything like that. If it did, I forgot. And why would I forget? Because I struggled with it. But then there's a character introduced that's called Isildur. And I thought, okay, now I can place something, because I know from the intro of The Lord of the Rings how Isildur takes up his father's swords and cuts off the fingers and then the ring of Sauron. But it seems Isildur got lost at some point. He ran into some raining. I don't think... So it put a bit of doubt in my mind. Was that Isildur or something else? Like, are they going to give the name to a different character to carry on his spirit or something, like Fly in the Futurama? So it's hard to place in the timeline, and that affects my viewing. I didn't really like that. Some of the more, let's go and say downright stupid stuff. If I were more elegant, I could say inconsistency. If I was more brute, I might call it, bad writing. But some of the things that stood out to me where I'm like, I'm disconnecting from this story, is, laws of physics and stuff. There is magic, and I can believe the magic. That's not this discussion. I might have it later. Let me just go. There's a volcano. There's a dormant volcano. A sleeping volcano is not active, but it gets activated because you throw a lot of water in it. And that's not how a volcano works, and it's stupid. Let's say I don't want to spoil... No, I don't want to spoil it, but there's a volcano. It's because they want you to introduce you to something with that volcano. Didn't like it. One of the things that... there's also some battles, and there's only one that was kind of like supposed to be massive. And they really I don't even want to say what Helm's Deep is not even that massive. It's just really intense. But like Return of the King, Ministerial, yeah, I think so. That was really massive, with tons of soldiers. So many you lost track of everything. That can be good and bad. But there was like a battle in the Rings of Power that is supposed to be massive. It's a big, powerful nation, or I guess it's a nation, a group, a society, a king, the queen, big army, sailing, going to war, and it's not massive. There's no sense of grandeur. There's like a small handful of ships. Like, we have bigger battles in Lord of the Rings. We have very bigger ships and more ships in anything like Game of Thrones. And thinking about it, if I remember, someone burns down a ship in the harbor without any issues. Like, these ships are unguarded and they're filled with weapons and food, and I think horses as well. So the massive battles aren't massive. Some people will affect. It was stupid to me, not the worst thing. Some people are more inclined to be upset about that. I think there was a battle, the massive battle that wasn't massive but was supposed to be massive, actually stops so two people can have a conversation. That was really stupid. It just kills all the tensions and kills the pacing. But some of the things where I was mostly don't care about these people, I don't like him, is the Hobbit equivalent in the Rings of Power. There's like a Hobbit stand-in, or different breeds. Can you say that about Hobbits? A different group. They're called the Harfoots. And they don't make any sense to me. I think they're stupid. I think they're evil. I don't like them. I don't. Yeah. I don't feel sympathy with them, so I don't care about how they do on their adventures, and I am supposed to. Because apparently the Wings of Power couldn't come up with anything other than, hey, we have this little hobbit race, but they can do good things. Been told twice before now, quite successful. Why not? Give it a third time. Well, not with the Halfwoods, at least so far. They are stupid. They are wanderers. They don't live from place to place. They wander. They travel. I guess nomads. Yeah, is the word. They have the little wagons, and they're evil because if there's a family they don't like, or if there's a family that they have a dispute with, they mentioned that they would have taken off their wheels, actually like directly dooming that family because they keep moving sometimes. Like they don't keep moving all the time. They set up little camps, but they move like at least twice a year. Like they migrate to find food. So maybe the original hobbits were better off because they seem to be farming, so you didn't have to move. I guess the Harefoots lives in more dangerous countries. They hide a lot. And we see it spelled out with the Harefoots and the evil wickedness, because one character has a broken, maybe a stumped, hurts his ankle, so he's not able to walk and not able to push the family wagon. And they don't delay. They just say, "Oh, okay. Well, if you can catch up, or if you can keep up, you'll be fine." And if not, nice knowing you, more or less. They have a tradition, like they have a little ceremony where they talk about, "We will wait for you." They mentioned the Harefoots or I think Harefoots are all of them, and then there's different families within, but I can't remember the name right now. Sorry, but it doesn't matter. So there was one guy. So there's a few where they mentioned, said, "We will wait for you," but like they just mentioned who they lost in this journey, which initially touched me. I was like, okay, they are caring, but it's in contrast because it's a lie, because they will not wait. Like they mention a guy's name, so they say, "Big guy, the beer drinker, we will wait for you." They also have like notes on how they died, so they'll be, "Big guy, the beer drinker, he was eaten by a wolf, we will wait for you." But then there's a guy that was apparently died by being stung to death by bees, and they laugh at it. Okay, sensitive little Harfoots. And then they actually doom this main family guy, where they say, "You can't keep up," and something else someone does so that he gets in bad standing. They're angry at him. They also put him in the back of the let's say caravan, like further condemning them, saying, "We might as well just kill them. You can't keep up. The dad can't push a pole, and you're in the back." That was something. I wasn't expecting that, and I do not like it. It's that was really weird. That was something. So overall, as I said, I've spent 10 hours watching this show. Is it worth it? I don't think so. Like compared with what else you can use 10 hours, you read different books, watch different things, like Sandman, I really like that. No, I don't think it's worth it. If you want to have more Lord of the Rings, I think you can watch the Peter Jackson movies 10 hours, or watch this. I would watch the Peter Jackson movies. But you probably have. My curiosity in these sort of things will not let me not watch this. That's just how it is. And there is a second season coming, from all that I can tell, and might even be a bit rushed, because I wouldn't say it picks up near the end, the Rings of Power. It just gets things into place. Actually, the title, The Rings of Power, gets more introduced, actually get made. Who are we kidding here? And so this excitement ramps up. So, yeah, in conclusion, I can't recommend this. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's exciting, but my curiosity will not let me not watch this. And quite honestly, it will not. I will watch the second season as well. I'm just too curious about these things. Um, but if you are not curious about it, or curious in the way that you can say, is this entertaining? I will say it's not. um, it's not good enough. I don't have much praise for it. Um, so maybe your mileage will vary. Um, it's not all death and dread. It's just not great. It's not even good, I would say. It's just there, and yeah. I had to watch it. You don't have to. Maybe you already have. Um, I hope you found my little rant useful in any way. That's the general idea. Maybe I pointed something out that you hadn't figured or didn't figured out. It's a bit rough to say, but hadn't noticed. I do that a lot. I watch other people, especially with Pinocchio. I watched other reviewers or content creator, whatever you want to call it, and they pointed out something. They're like, okay, I can see why this is worse than, or not good, or yeah, worse than I already knew it was worse. I just wasn't that affected, maybe because I didn't notice. But now I'm talking about Pinocchio, so let's finish Rings of Power. Don't think it's worth it. Yeah. Thank you for watching.